What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Bingetown TV and our coverage of HBO Succession. So we are now on to episode 6, officially over the halfway mark. This episode was titled Living Plus, which we found out was dead on the nose of some new tech service that Waystar Royco is trying to sell to investors, blah, 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 blah. We'll get to all of that. Before we do so, natural housekeeping things. If you have not yet subscribed to Bingetown TV and you are enjoying what you're listening to, what the heck are you doing? So get on that. And if you're listening on our Succession specific feed, which is just Succession, a Bingetown TV podcast, I would also highly recommend routing yourself to our main feed, which is just Bingetown TV. We cover a ton of TV shows. I'm sure you will find something you like in there. And honestly, the best way to find all of our episodes that we do and the shows we cover, bingetowntv.com. I'm going to say it until it wears out. New redesign by the wonderful James. It looks great, easy to navigate. It's all there for you. So if you want more Bingetown TV, that's the spot to go. And all right, transitioning back into Succession, the reason that everyone's actually here. Episode 6, Living Plus. The wonderful Alex will be giving our executive summary for tonight's meeting/episode. So I will hand the microphone over to her.
All right. Well, I'm laughing at the what the heck are you doing? You're bringing that energy from your very Philly meeting into this pod. I like it. The heck you doing? All right. Executive summary. Welcome to Fuckywood, land of scheduled grief, big shoes, deep fakes, and product launches that come with the promise of living more forever. We begin episode 6 with a Logan Roy jump scare. The man is back on screen as a talking, nay, shouting head to announce the launch of Waystar's newest product and our episode title, Living Plus. This product can only be described as Fox News' version of Smart House for boomers, intended to house the elderly and suck them dollar dry. Leading up to the big launch, we see Roman, can we do the huggy thing, Roy, go on a firing spree just to feel something, or maybe to see if he can keep feeling nothing at all. Either way, by episode's end, we see him very much in his feels, riddled with doubt, punishing himself in his private car of shame. We then have Siobhan spilled chocolate milk in the Range Rover Roy, playing both sides. She's reading her brothers for filth and while working the background angle with her sweetie. But most importantly, we see her reconnecting with Tom through a rousing round of Bitey amidst a Hollywood Hills soiree. Needless to say, my notes have smooch alert, followed by bang alert in all caps. And then last but not least, in this unholy trinity, we have the star of the show, the belle of the ball, Kendall, no one can say no, Roy, who is seen running around, eyes gleaming, in his element, much to the concern of the new Gen Roys and old heads alike. Dark Hermit Kendall ultimately goes full Frank Ocean at Coachella, requesting and scrapping the team's attempt at building the set he envisioned all at the last minute. Putting aside the scripted conversation with video footage of his now very dead dad, Kendall manages to deliver on the Living Plus launch, and he succeeds in using it to outmaneuver Mattson, and he also manages to win over the core Waystar team with his latest harebrained scheme. This leads us to the least charming Mattson move to date, tweeting a Nazi quote. Not only is this significantly less charming than sending vials of blood, it only gives actual weight to the CE Bros' claim that the striking Viking may be too unstable to rule. We close out with King Ken taking a swim in the Pacific, seemingly in a much better place than the last time we saw him in a body of water. And while we finally don't fear for his safety in an aquatic setting, I think it's fair to say that we're all left wondering, how long can this rain really last?
Wow.
That was really
well
good.
done. Striking Viking was good.
Big shoes. Big shoes.
There were so many good little blips I tried to weave in, you know.
That was good. I like the breaking it down by the Royce siblings. I feel like I've always only considered doing it chronologically.
I usually do, but they were just saying such dumb shit that stood out to me that I wanted it to be like their wrestler name or whatever, their tagline.
Yeah.
That was good. I look at that. We're getting better every week, people.
We are. I have big shoes to fill next week.
That'll flow us perfectly into our favorite moments of the episode. And I don't want to go first. And Alex just spoke. So Kathleen, you can do the honor of going first and have no one steal your moment.
Okay, my moment and quote, depending on what you guys chose, were kind of interchangeable. So that was kind of nice. So now I actually have to decide which one I like better, whether it's the moment or not. I think I'm going to choose um Tom and Shiv, the conversation they had after they had sex. And I loved Tom finally, they get to talk about his betrayal. And I love his little speech about, I mean, I like money. I like these things. I like my watch. Like you never invited me in. I was always going to be between you and your dad, and I love my career, so I went in that direction. And then when he's like join me in a trailer park, come with me in a trailer park. You coming? Like I thought that was such a good moment, such a good quote from Tom. I thought the Tom and Shiv stuff was the most compelling of the episode, besides of course Kendall's speech at the end, which was great. But I thought it was a great episode for Tom and Shiv. Specifically Tom, I loved it all. So yeah, I didn't go through the quote specifically, but you guys get it. I don't need to do it. It's like a whole ass quote. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna pretty much hop on that train, although I'll take the little earlier moment. So the initial moment when Tom comes in, and again, it's probably combined with a quote as well. It's not my favorite quote. I have another one for that, but just kind of like the sincerity in his voice when he says like you're scheduling your grief. I feel like him saying that, and I feel like Shiv finally like somewhat letting him in felt like a really like watershed moment almost. It felt really good to like watch them embrace, and then they kissed. I was like, whoa! I'm glad. I guess it was again. Maybe it's fucked up, but I'm glad it was Shiv that seemed to initiate it. I guess it always had to have been Shiv that was going to have to initiate that far. Obviously, she's in a very vulnerable moment. It's a very emotional decision, but I think that definitely is. I think the moment that is going to stick with me the most. Like that feels like almost the most iconic moment going forward from this episode. That's why I think it's easy to pick. A backup one was just going to be not even almost a moment, but like a shot of the episode when Kendall is like sad, dejected that he has to scrap the clouds, and it's like the view from behind in the back of the theater, and it's him just like with his head down and his arms like flat a little bit. It's just like such a funny
like
little
toddler.
Shot. Yeah,
he's
so
like
devastated.
A toddler.
It's so funny. I mean, I love me some Kendall. He's my number one boy, but that made me laugh pretty hard. That was his body language.
I mean, that whole scene was infuriating me. I mean, that it's for the next day, and then he ends up scrapping it all anyway. But him just being like, can't say no, can't say no one can say no is like such like that's rapey. Like you can't say that.
He's so bad at being cool. It's like unbelievable. I've never seen someone try so hard to be cool and be so unbelievably uncool.
Right. And his insecurities just like leap out the whole episode. Like when Rome sort of backs down on wanting to wear the matching jacket and do the speech, or even the whole concept of what he wants to do, he just starts getting so dejected and like silent, and like the head hanging again. He's like a little kid, and it's truly like a man child. I know you have that in your notes about Roman, but they both are. I mean, it's just watching them like drive this into the ground that I think is making people feel crazy. But then Kendall has his moments of like brilliance where it's obviously a lot of fluff that it's founded on, but his speech and everything is, you get why he can get to where he is sometimes. It's just he gets lost along the way a lot. Yeah. Favorite moment wise, I had the Tom and Shiv of it all too at the party with Bitey, and just like we got some answers around like, I don't know, like what's her baggage a little bit, and does Tom have baggage? And then we got answers about his career when they were talking again after having sex. So I thought that was like really rewarding for all the stuff we talked about preseason. And then I just had a tiny dumb moment of like when Mattson blows the kiss leaving the private jet. I just love Alexander Skarsgård in this, and it made me laugh.
Wait, were we doing quotes or moments?
Moments.
Oh,
you wrapped up both in it.
Oh, I fucked that up. I thought we were doing quotes there, but that could be my favorite moment too. And then I'll just do the opposite.
For you're good because I mean usually I make sure that we're doing moments first because I always forget, but I'm now feeling confident in it, so I moved us right into it without the question. So maybe my competence threw you off.
Always.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. We can slide right into quotes with that, and I'm gonna go first because the quote I love so much. And it's kind of like a little niche quote, but I feel like it's really good for Kendall lovers and especially Jess lovers. So when Kendall, they're like doing whatever, like the late night strategy meeting, and Kendall goes, "Can we see the drafts, Jay? Give me the double click on longevity so I can see everything. Infinite brain box." It just like literally makes no sense. He is just saying words. That is like such a classic Kendall quote. And it just, the second time I watched it, made me laugh so hard again. I was just like, that is the perfect encapsulation of Kendall as a CEO and like a leader.
This whole episode was that. He was, anytime, even when you thought Kendall was going to listen to what Roman was saying, because Roman was being a little unhinged this episode, and you think Kendall's going to go, whoa, man. No, he's like, yeah, I can buy into that. Like, shoot to the moon, Romy. Like, let's go.
He's nuts. And when him and Greg afterwards, he's like, to the moon, baby, to the moon. Yeah. I have a backup, but I won't spoil it if it's someone else's.
It's just so nuts how like Kendall's just a roller coaster again. And that's how you know he's really in it and in something he's like addicted to, because he's one moment he's like dejected. And then the next he's like, oh, yeah, fire joy. Yeah. Is that the move? Like he's like deferring completely to Roman in this weird way. And then he's like amping him up when he's looking for someone to tell him he did the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Kendall's like, no, take it further, take it fucking further. They're a toxic combination together.
Yes. Yeah.
The worst parts of Logan just in a package deal.
Mm-hmm.
I love to watch it though.
Yeah.
Me too.
Favorite quote comes from the other half of that idiotic duo when Roman says, that just feels very one size fits all. Like when they're like, first off, they're fucking talking like they're actually going to solve like pushing age out and death out in a real way. And then for him to say that is like totally like in a very serious way. Like, yeah, this works. Cause that's just, why?
Oh my gosh.
Roman's suggestions and stuff were feeling very like Black Mirror, San Junipero-y. You know, with, I don't want to spoil that because it's the best Black Mirror episode or one of like top 3 for me. Yeah. Of course it is. But yeah, God, I love that. Go watch that episode if you haven't seen it. But yeah, this whole Living Plus thing is something I want to dive into as if it's its own stock entity, because I would like to just dive into that. But okay, I can go. Were you done with that? Okay. My quote, well, this was actually my moment, but we flopped it, but that's okay. So I flopped it. So it's another Shiv moment. I love this moment where after the meeting with the, it's like Roman and oh my God, I'm losing my train of thought big time. Roman and Kendall are trying to kind of explain to them, Mattson kind of lost his mind, whatever, obviously lying. And Shiv is just, reading them for filth. Like, yeah, okay, the chocolate milk line fucking slayed me. But I love at the end when she was just like, you're cocksuckers.
Yeah.
Cocksuckers is such a good insult. Like all those consonants hit so good.
Yeah, they do.
And I also like, Kyle, you say this a lot, cocksmack. I think that's like even better. But I loved this. And I loved when she's like, I know you, I fucking know you. And has like receipts from childhood to just be like, you guys are assholes. And when Kendall's like, well, and Rome's like, fine, just throw me under the bus. Jesus, I was so team Shiv in this moment. These boys are like little kids, like cowering little kids being like, no. It's
she had the upper hand finally, like, but she's playing it cool versus like the meltdown at the Pierce dinner with Logan being like, tell him I'm it. You know what I mean? I think she's learned. And yeah, I also wrote when she's like, don't get mud on my confirmation dress. Like, not buying their shit about like trying to keep her clean. She's like, this was just her the whole time. Like, fuck off.
That was a really good scene. And I'm sure, I mean, obviously I'm not a complete Shiv lover, but I'm sure that scene was kind of the start of what ended up being a really, really great Shiv episode. Before we get into that character analysis, my backup quote was going to be Carl telling Kendall that while Kendall has Carl's dick in his hand, Carl also has Kendall's dick in his hand.
Yes. Agreed.
I was like, fuck yeah, Carl. Caleb.
I'm surprised Carl at the end was so team Kendall all of a sudden again after that situation. I mean, Kendall had a great, performance, but the numbers are bullshit, right? Like that as well, as much as it seemed like, wow,
numbers.
You said he didn't say numbers?
I guess to the point, yeah, he didn't actually go into the numbers that Pete was crunching. So it kind of, they just
Poor
used
Pete.
the Logan. Yeah, they just used the Logan quote, and that was kind of it. And I think that
Yeah.
kind of showed Carl that kind of listened to him before.
Calling him special. That was really,
God.
he's special. I'm like, okay, Carl, 180.
I know special.
I know a thing or two about a thing or two. It was like very well written to
Yeah.
show him as like a fucking dinosaur again. Just
Yeah.
And speaking of Pete, too, there were so many great Kendall quotes just involved in that whole fudging of numbers debacle of just when Pete's like, numbers aren't just numbers, like they're numbers. And then when Kendall's like, eh? Like, he's like, that doesn't
talking
mean
gibberish,
anything,
Pete.
Yeah, that was so funny.
From that man is just the funniest.
Yeah,
concept.
exactly.
Like,
That was
okay,
actually
infinite brain box.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my quotes just because it was so funny how hypocritical it was. But the infinite brain box is just hilarious. But I
like brand turboed is like a descriptive. I'm like,
I miss Supersonic. I feel like you said Supersonic a lot in like episode like season 3 or season 3 and season 2. He was a big fan of the word supersonic.
He loves supersonic and also leapfrogging tech. I feel like was used a few times.
Yeah, that was he's such a wild motherfucker. All right, let's get into this character analysis / market watch / stock watch / new tech line real estate product watch. And we could start. I mean, we could start heavy hitting if we want to just start with Shiv.
Let's do it.
Oh yeah,
let's do it. Let's start with Bitey.
Yeah,
because I loved it. It's so funny. I was doing my rewatch at my parents' house today, and my mom was sitting next to me. I was like, "Let's play Bitey." She was like, "No, what the fuck?"
Do you think you would
I was
win?
like, It seems like a children's game, and somehow like those two made it foreplay. And it's kind of saying that weird now that I compared like saying let's play Bitey with my mom. That's obviously I kind of want to cut that now.
Well, we ain't, so
too bad. Anyway, I thought this was a great Shiv and Tom episode. I was so in on those two. I'm glad we got the information from Tom on like why he did it. I think that was a good enough answer for Shiv. But I want to know what do we know what TK is? And then she said the DC stuff. That was like her lows.
Yeah, I assume that's like initials of a guy or something. Cause she was like, well, you're the one after the actual one, which I thought was like the most sick fucking burn of all time. But to
she follows it up with like, I was the only one for you or whatever. So
I'm your whole story.
Yeah, that's a tough line to say to someone.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess the DC thing feels somewhat like obviously she was in politics before this, but the TK, I wonder if because especially Alex has been asking those kind of questions even since the season 4 hype episode. So
I imagine whatever this breakup was is like sort of work tied, or like DC is probably so like incestuous in that way, right? That people know people and kind of maybe ran her out of town. If I'm putting together the pieces of she was in France or something where Tom met her or whatever. So I can't remember the dude's name that she had the affair with, but I don't think those were. No, that was the guy that they worked for.
Oh,
I cannot.
I think it was Nate.
Okay, you're right. Yeah. So it's not him either. Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
It was Gil.
He was fucking Gil, right?
Whoa. New controversy.
After those fucking pizza parties, after campaign events.
It took all of the. It took Tom finally standing up for himself and, saying all these things for, I feel like, Shiv to be like, okay. I mean, it also took Mattson like juicing her up for all of this anyway, but I think the belly laugh into the weird looks after the conversation they have on the bed was just superb. On the first watch, on the rewatch, I was just like mouth open, like that laugh they share and then immediate stop and like looking at each other. I'm like, this is like so confusing to me.
They're cut from the same cloth more than I think Shiv ever knew is kind of what I feel like she clicked for her in the scenes.
And I want to say it's probably more Logan and the baby. I feel like almost. Maybe it's just a lot at once. I feel like she doesn't have a choice now but to be vulnerable, because in episode 1 or 2, whenever it is, where Tom is trying to have this conversation and she wants nothing to do with it. And I feel like so many bad things have piled up on her that maybe even subconsciously, maybe it's not even a conscious decision, that like she wants something in her life to work out and like maybe confront it. And this is something she can kind of confront. I mean, her dad's gone. There's really nothing that can be done about that, but there is something that can be done about Tom. And honestly, the baby, that's like two birds at one stone right there. I don't know if that's like a conscious motivation for her, but
I'd like to point out that she's dealing with the Logan grief for 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. So she's doing it. I'm just kidding. That's psychotic. Tough. But I also think she's realizing with her dumbass brothers, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, that she needs another ally, right, in this fight. And like she said, she's like, let's just be, people who share information or whatever. I wrote like strategists with benefits is what they're kind of angling.
Yeah.
And I think she, needs. So that is trusting him again a little bit more. I mean, that can open her up to some risk. So that's big of her. I guess that's growth for her character finally.
Yeah. And I mean, Tom did admit it was always her and her dad who was kind of the decision that he was going to have to make. The dad decision is not there anymore. So now it's kind of her. It feels like that obstacle maybe is potentially removed, because he doesn't feel that way about fucking Ken and Romy, where he's like, maybe I'll be loyal to them. I feel like it's not maybe really like that.
What episode do you think Shiv finally tells Tom about the
Hopefully
baby?
Next episode.
I mean, she's going to start showing soon. So, I mean, this is only day. You're right. Yeah.
I mean, Kendall literally says in the speech, he was like, this has been a tough few days. And I was like, got a little bit of whiplash. I was like, oh my God, it's literally been like 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. This episode seemed like 1.5 days or something, right? Because I feel like he asked for the house and then the next day they were doing the thing. And they were at the party and they banged. And the next day it seemed like Shiv was going into the office. So, but either way, I think we're going like 2 days or less on these episodes. So yeah, maybe that's part of the finale.
If they were normal, somewhat normal people, it would be next episode. But there's obviously nothing normal about them. So I'm sure it'll get dragged out.
I'm dying for it.
Well, so what do we think? Shiv's stock up, stable? I think a little up.
Up.
Promising.
Yeah. She still got the in with Mattson. I feel like she really showed, not that, I mean, anyone really saw, because it was all kind of in closed rooms with just Kendall and Roman. It's not like Jerry is noticing her like being more competent than them, but we're noticing it. And that's like a fact that the show is obviously trying to show us at points. So I think that's 100% Shiv stock up for her. But I guess at the same time, the goal is really Pierce, I guess. And that looks like it's on somewhat shaky ground. So.
I mean, Kendall's like, we can have it all. We can have this. We can have Pierce. He's out of his mind.
He thinks he's going to be 150 years old. He's really thinking ahead.
That's a perfect segue.
Big picture.
That is a perfect segue.
Yeah,
Kendall. Go ahead. Talk about your boy.
Well, I was going to say, he's my boy. You bought a little bit of stock in him before the season, so we both have some loyalty here. But it's so tough. And again, it was just like episode 4 where he gets like the co-CEO thing, and it's him at the end with a smile, and it was like, us, Kendall girlies are on top, but we know that like what this kind of means for him, and now we're really getting a bigger, like, this is the biggest example we've gotten on him. I don't know if I really want to use the word unhinged, but just like this manic Kendall, where it's just like he's like loving where he's at right now. He's like, we're staying up all night, like, we're doing all this finagling with the numbers, like we're doing this presentation, we're going to the moon, and he is just like in his element. But it's so obvious that he is just not handling anything well at the moment. It's tough to watch, but also
constant.
It's hard to watch, but this is also why I watch the show. So it's kind of like both sides of it. I'm like, I'm actually eating pretty well with it.
I think Shiv saying the gleam in his eye thing is perfect, because they recognize it. Roman recognizes it enough to back out at the last second. I think that he didn't want his name on it. He didn't know what was going to happen. He's like, I need to get the fuck away from this. But them in the crowd, just Shiv and Roman, like watching him with the gleam in his eye, and then them all watching him, do the whole performance of it all. I was the same. Like, can I cringe so hard I turn into a fossil? Great line. Agreed. Kendall is a cringe factory, but as someone who bought Kendall stock,
he's so earnest though. It's so hard.
I just feel like he's smarter than he's being in this episode. I mean, he's got the charisma and this like awkward type and Jeremy Strong plays it like a fucking, I mean, it's so sad we're not going to get more Jeremy Strong in this character after the season because he has it down to a T. Like, it's phenomenal, but he's, you're right, like a little bit unhinged, but he has it down. Like in the beginning when he's like, big shoes, big shoes. They're all like, God. Fuck.
Big nervous breakdown.
Yeah, he's talking to the prompter, but then he really, like, you know, he catches his stride. He has these like weird moments with Logan on screen that were obviously like AI, I assume, or like B-roll, you know, that
they cut the clips. It was like real stuff, and then they cut the clips.
Yeah, that's what it. Yeah. So either way, I think Kendall. There's just no way that Kendall lands on top. After watching this episode, I will put it on the board that I feel like I'm losing all of my money that I put into Kendall, which sucks because for certain episodes, you know, I should have cashed out, but I didn't, and I'm gonna keep it till the end, unfortunately.
There's just no way that he learns any type of lesson in the next 4 episodes. Like, obviously, yeah, like this episode is the idea behind it is like that this is such like a, not like necessarily a hollow victory because they do say like the stock price has gone up, like the goal has been achieved, but the way it happened was like all over the place and obviously not sustainable for him to, you know, keep being successful. So it just feels like it's just a classic Kendall peak, and then the valley's just going to hit just as hard. I mean, that's usually kind of that in that equilibrium of like the higher the peak, the faller, the bigger the crash for him. So it's so crazy how often it happens and how we know it's going to happen. And it's just like, I just literally cannot look away.
So now the new, go forward plan from Kendall is to pump up the value of the company with Living Plus, get it over 192 so that you like price out of Matsson, I guess. They're like wanting it to be like, they want to value that stock as high as they can so that Matsson backs out.
And they get to keep it and stay where they are or have a better shot at continuing. And if you make that win, I mean, how could you not sort of persuade the board if they don't know the truth about how it all unfolded, as Kyle said?
It's just too, like, their business, again, and like me and Kathleen have brought up before, like, I don't really know what the fuck's going on, but it just feels so like cookie cutter, basic, obvious, like they're not really doing anything actually crazy, but they themselves are so wild that it just becomes this huge mess. But like the idea is very straightforward. It just becomes this circus because they're the ones that are involved with it. And it just feels like it doesn't have a chance of actually working out.
They just, like you said, don't learn lessons and convolute things time and time again because of their ego or like this thing they're chasing, right? It's just always, there's always some game to play or always some one-upping rather than just stay the fucking course, which is what everyone's been telling them to do always. And because I think Logan was a bit that way as well, obviously. I mean, he went down.
I did see an interesting perspective on the internet of like, I feel like someone was saying essentially that they interpreted a lot of what the show did of saying Logan honestly did some wacky shit and like some ill-advised things and was obviously very narcissistic and could fly off the handle and is known for kind of these fits of maybe rage or like crazy decisions, and it just worked out for him is what it seems like the show kind of has said. But because like everyone tells us that he's a legend, but we've never really seen it so much. It's more that like people defer to him because of his reputation versus us really seeing him be this amazing business person. It feels like people just fold to him because like we got introduced to the debt storyline, and obviously the thing with the cruises is not great leadership. I mean, that almost took the whole fucking company down. So like all of this kind of stuff is he also made mistakes. It just seemed like it worked out for him. It just doesn't seem like it's going to work out for Kendall and Roman.
Yeah. I mean, they say that in the karaoke room, right? Didn't Shiv say it basically? She's like, is it like you're right because you're right, or everyone just works around you to make you feel right?
Yes.
And like, that's exactly what you're saying. I think at one point he did know what the fuck he was doing, right? But when you have a company this fucking big and you're not listening to anyone and you're just doing all these things, of course it's bloated and you're in debt and you become a parts shop. Your ego just took up all the room and in your brain. And I think Yeah,
And I mean,
we just hear about it versus seeing it.
Perfect example is in the Roman storyline, which is, you know, a good segue into speaking about his overall episode, when the studio head is like, people don't want to make movies with us because of this rightward lean of ATN. Like, Logan was so blinded almost to like what was happening outside of the company. I mean, Kendall's whole thing is that the company is just old. It just is archaic values and an institution. Like, they need to evolve. Logan doesn't really want to do that so much, it seemed like, until the Gojo deal was how they finally kind of convinced him. That obviously went sideways in the sense that it turned into being acquired versus acquiring Gojo. But Roman just, he is just going off. He honestly made so many worse decisions than Kendall. Like, Kendall's things is a lot of background stuff. Like, the set stuff in the clouds is a wild man. He's just a wild man. But in reality, like, it's not that like big of a deal. It's just he probably made an enemy of some set designers and they were like, fuck this guy, he's an asshole. But Roman is like, because Kendall at the end of the day, I guess, got the stock price up, but Roman, it feels like his moves may even take the stock price down.
Going back to you're saying that, you know, Logan may have made bad decisions too, and he's a legend, but we only hear of the legend. But, you know, Roman and Kendall are already acting like they're legends. You know, Roman is going, Jerry says it to Roman. Jerry's like, you're not your dad. And that, you know, that is what the last thing Roman ever wants to hear. You know, Roman is trying to fulfill his dad's legacy, where Kendall's probably kind of trying to go the opposite way and being like, fuck you, dad. I'm going to take this company. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. But then same with Kendall.
Sounds
I mean, Frank's like, listen, I took shit, or not Frank, Carl's like, I took shit from your dad, but me and your dad were through the ringer. Like, we went through some stuff. Like, you know, but I've been around the block and you fucking haven't. So listen to what I'm saying. If you're going to embarrass me, I'm going to squeal. You know, the boys are getting too big. They haven't earned this CEO spot. Like, they need to, and that's kind of, I guess, what they're trying to do too, like prove themselves, but they're doing it in such insane ways. And I want to get back to Roman just because, you know, I was saying that I think this was my least favorite of the 6 episodes so far, which is like saying 6 amazing episodes, it's my least favorite. Come on. It's not really dissing the episode, but in general, Roman has been on such an up and up for me this whole season, and this one like pissed me off for him so bad. Like I said, he's an actual man child. Like, him with the woman, you know, that he fires. Joy. What's her? She was
the head of the studio.
Yeah, head of the studio. Like, being like, oh well, I guess I'll fire you. Oh, I already said it out loud. I have to act on it. Like, and Jerry, you know, saying she has all these contacts. Like, she's been here for a while. You cannot just do this. And then later he's like, well, I said I fired her, but I didn't fire her.
I said I fired her. I told her I fired her to her. I didn't fire her. And she goes, what the fuck is that? And I was like,
yeah.
And also I feel
like the fucked up part, maybe, or maybe like the classic Roman part, is that from the business perspective, obviously morally, talking about Mencken and his ideas as IP morally is reprehensible. But from the business perspective, he's not wrong in that sense. I mean, unfortunately, we saw it with the 2016 presidential election. There's been a ton of whatever, you know, opinion pieces and studies done on all that kind of stuff in terms of free advertisement and how it was just like a ratings bonanza. And kind of, I guess, the idea of that is this Mencken storyline in the show. And okay, if you want to take it from the business perspective, seems like a smart CEO move. But then he just follows it up with then that just like unhinged firing. And it was like, it's one step forward business wise, 12 steps backwards, because then that firing at some level could be like, okay, he fires a studio head. You can get a new studio head, whatever. And then it snowballs into firing Jerry. And it was like, okay, Jesus Christ, he's officially, you know, lost the plot.
Yeah. I mean, also firing that woman after she expressed that, like, really getting talent and getting people in the door to do the pump up the hit factory or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Like, and then he just fires her over it. It's a bad look. On top of, like, they're not supposed, like, him being IP is just actually, I don't know about illegal, but it's meddling with the government. It's not the same entertainment and government, but even when Shiv found out that Mencken had been like advising on editorial, like that's a big no. I guess like it's a conflict of interest at minimum. But yeah, and then firing Jerry, I just think his grief is coming out in these ways where he just needs to be respected and seen as Logan. And then you see him torturing himself at the end because he's beating himself up about, not buying into Kendall's thing and losing out on that moment of glory. I think he just feels all the failures we saw. I think he's reflecting on that. I mean, the firings for me were like reminiscent of when he like wrote $1 million check for that kid in the pilot to hit a home run and then ripped up in front of his fucking face. Like that was that level of Roman, just callous and shitty and spoiled. And like that was like the energy he brought when he was like, I am my dad. I'm here and fuck you, bye, Jerry. It was horrifically cringe.
Yeah.
And stocks down bad, that guy.
Yeah.
I read something or listened to Jay Smith Cameron, who plays Jerry, say that interestingly enough, she's like, Kieran looked at me for the first time in that scene. In every other scene, he's looking over here, he's saying some crazy shit, he's like doing jerk off things, and you know what I mean? Like Roman's always saying crazy things and kind of. I don't know. It's interesting. His dynamic with Jerry is so interesting. But in this scene, he's looking at her and he's talking to her, and that's different, which I loved hearing, which I didn't even gather myself. But you do gather it, but you just don't put it into words, just because you can tell how intense that scene is. And she put it into words for me, which was great. And man, it's good, but I hated it, and I love that Jerry's just like not fired.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I mean, Kendall was on board, but he told her to write up the paperwork. So I just feel like all the things he did don't hold any real weight. I mean, unless, Joy wants to go off the handle, or I think Jerry wants to ride this out and get her cut of the check. But these boys are going to do their damnedest.
I think she wants to still be involved in the company. I think she still wants a job, because she says to him, I'm not on the kill list. Like, fuck you. Like, you pretty much can't fire me.
So even if they fire her and say Mattson acquisition goes through, she could come right back on board and help him. Like, she's been there so long and can give him so much inside information. It's invaluable.
If this Roman Jerry split, I guess, quote unquote, is a thing, it could easily be a way of Mattson again just throwing more shit at Roman, which he seems to really revel in at this point in the story. I mean, the ending scene, like we've talked about, that fucking deepfake video is insane. Just complete unhinged behavior. As much as you hate Roman, that's an insane thing to just tweet publicly, of this deepfake video of his dad who just died saying that he has a micro dick. Like, that is just a crazy thing.
It looked like it was in a text, like when you pull up like a video or photo in text and it has a little box with the arrow. But we're like, who made it and sent it to him? Like, I have so many questions about how that came into his possession, if not social media. Maybe it was an error, but like, I was like, who fucking would text him that?
It did come from a text. I would guess Greg. Like Greg was the one who was having the editor edit double. And it's funny when you watch Logan say, and he's like, double the profits. Like, it does sound slightly off, but if you didn't know, you would never notice. But we were talking about how fucking AI and shit like that is so freaky, man. But like, how are we supposed to know what's real and what's not moving forward? There's so many crazy AI things, especially voice, when you just hear voice.
Yeah.
But Roman is so fucked up. Just him sitting there watching that, like, he just wants to hear his dad's voice, and him berating him is nothing new. Like Kendall says, that's a Valentine's card. It's just a normal day, and why wouldn't it be something that he's dissing him for? Ugh, so sad. But
it's so funny. I don't know why I just assumed it was Mattson.
That would be great.
It could be. Well, no, because Mattson hated that thing. So
I don't know how Mattson would even get that. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I just assumed it was Mattson making fun of like the deep fake thing that was in the presentation.
I mean, technically people don't know that,
Yeah. I guess, some people might have picked up on it. But I guess, again, like, we know as an audience because we watch them fucking make the demand. But that's a good point as well.
So quickly, Greg. Oh, wait. Do we want to say Roman, Kendall up, down?
Roman down.
Roman down, Kendall slightly up.
Oh, he's up. It's not
Yeah,
gonna last,
I
but
think
it's up.
I think Kendall is best analyzed in 15-minute increments of his life. So we're on an up right now for sure.
Okay, cool. That's
Yeah,
a good point.
We could easily take that downturn on his way home from the beach. He might do something. But I mean, putting the number one in the sand and then jumping into the ocean, that feels like a Kendall victory right there. So we're gonna take the up.
I know. I love that you said in your intro that we've seen him in bodies of water face down, so it's nice to see him face up. But okay, sure. Greg is now on the killing the deal inside. He was not technically last episode. Last episode, they say, can you drum up some, some of that press that he had drumming up, and he's like, yeah, drum it up, so like it's a good tactic in the room to use. But it seemed like Greg didn't actually know what the end game was. He was just like blindly going in, but now he's in on it. He knows now, because when they're shooting the shit and Greg ends up being like whatever pitch bot, he knows, he's aware, which seems like an up for Greg. But I don't care.
I mean, hitching your wagon to Kendall is, I mean, a slightly less stable than Tom. I mean, Tom is the head of a division at ATN. Tom isn't completely unhinged in moments, so it's a risky proposition for Greg for sure. But it's interesting because Greg, I guess, is playing Tom a little bit, which feels very risky as well.
Mm-hmm. Wendell, that's Kendall when he's on the up. Yeah. He's got a W. It's Wendell.
Yeah.
Greg is pitch bot. I just don't even think about it in the moment. But how does he even get in the fucking room, and get not told to just fuck off?
Roman tries.
But then they were like, he was like, well, pitch bot, what do you think? And they were actually asking his opinion. So it confuses me sometimes how I think he's kind of that thing that just it's like if you throw it at a wall, see what sticks, but he just keeps coming up again and again. And you're like, I'm sick of fighting it.
Yeah.
He had somewhat reasonable input on the Living Plus when he's like, how are we going to sell houses as tech? Because we've had houses for a while. And it was honestly, you sound kind of like an idiot saying it, but that sentence makes a lot of sense, Greg.
This is not a Greg line, but Tom says it to Greg after Kendall's presentation, and he goes, how am I supposed to follow this up? He just promised eternal life. The whole bit about Tom's presentation and Greg just being like, well, your presentation's not great. And he's like, I hope I'm being spotlit at least.
Yeah, that was so
it's
funny.
Mumbles in the background.
Yeah. He's like, do we have anything behind me? And she's like, well, we can get you a spotlight. He's like, well, I hope I'm being spotlit while I'm on the stage.
You're an ATN citizen. I'm an ATN citizen. It's just Corn Town every time from this Midwestern hoe.
Fucking love that guy.
Mattson?
Mattson's in an interesting spot. It's got to be a down, though.
No, you can't. Okay, so I got this from a website, so just for everybody. So Mattson's tweet is Dodrick mocked Fry, which is a play on the Nazi phrase "are by my mocked Fry," sorry, which appears on the entrances to Nazi concentration camps such as Auschwitz. The Nazi phrase translates to "work sets you free," which is awfully grim. And Mattson's deeply appropriate tweet is a play on this. Dodrick, you may recall, is the goofy dog mascot that Greg was originally dressed up in a Waystar-owned themed park when he puked in. And Mattson's tweet was Dodrick at, not at a theme park, but at a concentration camp. And this is a play on Shiv's own words to Mattson, prison camps for grannies. Interesting.
The mascot thing is a great callback for the audience. But yeah, Mattson's, I love Kendall's response. He's very European. It's like what he just says in the moment. Yeah, he just kind of says it in the moment. Which
he also says I wouldn't say that.
Yeah. Oh my God.
He just kept saying blabbering obvious shit and of just not condoning it. Well, yeah, it's not.
That's a tough spot to be in because he can't publicly talk about wanting to kill the deal, but he can't really be so anti-Mattson. So he's got to kind of almost play both sides, which is difficult, I'm sure, to play in the moment like that with a fucking quote from a Nazi concentration camp. So
I just don't know what Mattson gets from it. I know he was pissed off about what they were doing, but how is that helping his position with already overpaying?
Yeah.
So now, like,
not.
your bear hug leverage of like the board really can't say no to this great deal of 192. When you do that, then you make everyone worried because they've already always kind of been a question mark about like his personality is priced in. But now I'm like, is it? Because that's fucking next level bad.
Yeah, awful. And it's similar to season 3 when Logan's still involved and it's like tweets the crazy shit, I guess, when they're at the wedding. And they're even saying like, is this like a play or is he just like a crazy person? I feel like Logan's confused. He's like kind of, I think, asked Roman. He's like, what the fuck is the deal with this? Like, is this a play? I don't know what's going on here.
Like, is he high? Roman's like, he's high. He's on shrooms. Yeah. Or whatever.
Yeah. This, I mean, obviously it was a very deliberate like attempt to voice his displeasure, but yeah, it didn't seem like it was well thought out at all.
No. Did we want to talk about Living Plus? Did we feel
I mean, we did talk about Living Plus. I just think
in spot as any.
In general, I mean, it's not a bad idea, right? But cruises on land is a terrible pitch for it, which Mattson says. But later when they talk about, you can get access to these like life altering drugs, life extending drugs, and even certain plus and perks and things, is amazing if you can actually offer it. But I feel like who's living in these places? Rich people. It didn't seem like they were marketing it to the everyman, but they were like, this is usually only available to billionaires, but now it's available to you at cost. And I'm like, is this just Kendall, brainstorming on stage? Is this something that they've actually, priced out? Is this something that they could do? It's a great pitch. Like, it sounds amazing. It sounds something maybe like in
sounds
50...
realistic.
You think?
I'm okay, not like the life-saving stuff, but the idea that like I could see Amazon. I mean, Amazon, we have the Alexas, like Amazon Echoes, whatever they're called. Like, I'm sure they have some level of like thermostat stuff, like locking your doors, like all of that feels like very believable products. But I mean, the rub is, Kendall says it when they're trying to fudge the numbers, is like huge revenue stream from selling third-party health data. Like, that's kind of like not the main motivation, but I mean, that's something we know happens now, is like with like Twitter, social media, like the fact that it's quote unquote free for us. The rub is the fact that they're selling all of our data and that's how they're making the money. Kendall wants to do it with health data, which feels illegal, but what the fuck do I know? So it's just, I mean, it just seems like something that people would eat up for sure, but like an insanely slippery slope. Like, I wouldn't want a company, especially an entertainment company, to have like that level of control over my fucking house.
It's like Fire Festival to me.
I think
it does. I mean, it sounds like a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah. It's kind of Black Mirror. They know their audience. It's this ATN audience of people who think it's white people, who think anyone of color walking by is trying to kill them and shoots them in their driveway. It's everything happening in real life today. And so if you can promise them that they can stay cozy and snug in their neighborhood full of people, that they like, all the people in the images were white too in Living Plus, of course. And if you can promise that, it's like kind of like 55 plus communities, but with like easily to navigate tech that makes you feel safe and your house is easy to use. And then like we're promising trying to figure this thing out for you too. And you get like all the entertainment features of theme parks and cruises and everything. Yeah, I think their audience like would eat that shit up, honestly.
For sure.
I don't think it's a bad idea, but I say this every day at work because I just fucking live with ideas people, but ideas have no value if you can't fucking make it happen, in my opinion. I mean, clearly there's a valuation on them, so I'm wrong in some regard, but I strongly feel that way at the end of the day.
I mean, they're not extending people's lives by 50 years. That's just not happening.
No.
I mean, at some level, the quality of your home and your environment will definitely add years onto your life for the most part. If you have like great air filtering and, good temperature control and all of those things, and that can definitely extend your life. But I mean, like, they're not giving people 50 more years. They have no life elongating therapies. Like, those are just words. That's barely an idea. Those are literally just Kendall words, it feels like.
Right. Those are like the richest people. You think like Logan wouldn't have had that if it didn't exist. So I get the idea of wanting to make it exist. I do. And he really plays like the emotional card on that one. He really gets people bought in on that at the end there.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, that's Tom's line when he's like, I can't follow that up. Like, he literally fucking guaranteed them eternal life. And like him saying that is a perfect summation of like what he actually did. He just said some random shit that I'm sure obviously everyone at some level wants to hear, but there's no way Waystar Royco is gonna fucking deliver that to people. That just ain't happening.
At scale.
At scale.
At scale. Oh my gosh.
I agree. And I guess unless anybody else, my last thing is that it was so nice to open up on Logan's face. You know, just so happy that Brian Cox got to shoot this. I know I had saw somewhere that he was shooting flashback scenes, I think, but I think I forgot that. So it was nice. And of course, he's such a dick in it still. Like, it's not like, oh, they brought back a sweet video. Yeah. No, it's like, he's like, my idiot kids. And he's screaming. And Jess is like this. Jess is such a good shot of Jess. I fucking love that girl. I hope she gets the company. Her and Carolina, of course.
Yeah, her, Carolina, and Jerry running the show would be chef's kiss.
Carolina taking credit for some wacky thing Kendall said.
It was just a slight facial, like, she didn't say no. It was kind of like a face shrug, and I loved it. Great acting. Yeah.
I couldn't tell if it was just Hugo like trying to say something of like, oh, that's great. And everyone else was like, what the fuck is he talking about? But I guess Carolina wouldn't need like that level of like recognition from Hugo.
Yeah.
But I guess she does respond oddly. So who could say? I guess
does? He reports to her.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
Because he tries to knife her essentially to Logan, and Logan makes a comment about it, but saying like, oh, you are a fucking slimy bastard or whatever.
Yeah.
Because he just kind of fucking popped up in season 2.
Yeah, he wasn't around all that time, but
another character who wasn't around and should be around more and has been around since the beginning. Yeah, me and the con heads are fucking a little salty that our boy wasn't. But actually, I saw something too. Was a great comment of like, this episode was just full of kind of Waystar bullshit. Connor stays out of Waystar bullshit, so makes sense, for the most part that he wasn't involved. But it means we better get a fucking double feature next week in America Decides, because that's got Connor really written all over it.
It's got to be, because it really does. Is that 8 or 7?
I thought that was 8.
Oh my God! Shot to the heart, and I'm to blame.
I think it's interesting because the previews for next episode show almost like a party. Tom's been talking about a
you're right,
election party. Yeah, so it's a tailgate. This can't be the election, I don't think. So episode 7, but there's some sort of party they go to because like Mattson's in it, and it seems like everybody's in this episode. And once the election comes around, Connor will be a bigger player, obviously, because he's in the running, baby. He's getting that 1%.
Maybe this is where they're like, they want you to drop out, and he's like, what the fuck? Because Mattson crashes the party. So we'll see. All
right, I think he'll be in it.
Yeah. This was a great ep. I looked at Kathleen and was like, wow, this one is hard to take notes on because it's so much dialogue and so much happening, but like no action. Like I was like, my notes are all just like quotes or like half-baked quotes or words.
And honestly, it felt like a more casual watch than some other episodes. Especially I noticed kind of when I was watching leisurely a second time, it felt very casual, like you said, because it is a ton of dialogue.
Yeah, but more casual than like when they were like picking who was going to be interim. Like that one, I felt like was like,
they're slightly less like scheming. I think a lot of things were really as they seemed.
Yeah. Waystar bullshit, just left, right, and center.
Like I said, Kendall, I mean, just the most earnest man in America. Like he means everything he says, even if what he says means nothing.
Yeah.
And Roman, I mean, same thing. I mean, I don't think the analysis has to go any deeper than he's clearly just lashing out and making these crazy decisions. Shiv and Tom felt fairly straightforward and something we've been begging for. So it kind of, it felt like a casual watch that I enjoyed.
Agreed.
I enjoyed for sure. Love you know what I enjoy more? I enjoy more is doing this after every episode. So
me too. Me
I know
too,
we got what
friendship.
7, 8, 9, 10. That's 4 episodes.
I know when you said that, I got really sad because it was like it felt like when we were at 5, we're like, wow, we're only halfway through, and now we've tipped that point. I'm like,
Yeah,
fuck, we are winding down.
It's funny that we ever thought we would just do one episode at the end
Right.
of the season,
or even halfway. It's like,
Yeah.
fuck, that would be 5 hours long.
Yeah. We've really we're really starting to hit our stride here.
We are.
So yeah, I guess that wraps everything up. I don't have any parting shots. So that'll be it. That'll be the end. It is, so it would be episode 6. Absolute curtain call. Big shoes next episode, of course. Moving into the back half of the season. Fuck yeah, if you like what you heard, please subscribe if you're feeling saucy and up to it. BingetownTV.com is the home of Bingetown. Any info you want about us, it's probably there. If you are watching on YouTube, shout out to you guys because the YouTube videos have been killing it lately. And it's really fun to watch the numbers go bigger and bigger and bigger. And we love the comments. So please keep that up. I'm sure none of you are watching at this point because no one watches to the end of the video. But in case you are, a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I love you. And thank you for listening. And we will be back next week. And yeah.
Shoot it to the moon, Romy.
Fuck off.
Fuck you, Wood.
Fuck off.
Yep.
Do we think we're getting the fucking funeral for this man ever? Will he be
I don't
laid
know.
to
Dude,
rest? Like, is he on ice? Are they doing him up? What's going on?
Who fucking knows? Yeah, I mean, Connor's obviously worrying about it. He was grinding this past episode with it.
Right.
Probably. So
I
just
every party they have, I'm like, is this the funeral? Is this the funeral?
Because yeah, tailgate party. It's definitely not it, unless they were there for his post funeral.
Yeah.
I feel like we're gonna get the fucking funeral. We have to.
There's no way
It's gotta
Madsen
be part
would
of
ever
the
fucking
finale. Like,
the finale.
yeah, because
Madsen
they
would
said
never be
going
invited.
on. Yeah.
They said that they were talking about there was like a very small cast that shot some of the final scenes. They went away for a weekend with a very small cast, very small crew, like probably just the new Jen Roys and maybe a few other people. And like, it was like devastating and shit. So that may be like, they have to like figure out the will and then just like a bigger sibling episode or something like that.
That makes me sad because that sounds like no Jess.
I respect you are concerned about that.
Me too.
And I would like Jess to be in every episode.
Me too. I love that
Or
girl.
Jay.
She's getting the company.
Jay, as
Jay.
Kendall started to call her.
President Jay.
I love that.
President.
Also,
Yeah.
Shiv has like an assistant this episode, which
Yeah.
seems Sarah, her name is. Yeah. Which is, I only remember because her name's Sarah Snook in real
Yeah,
life. I
that
feel
makes
like they
sense.
probably named her that just because. Yeah, that felt new as well.
She deserves it. I guess Roman had his fucking team in episode
Yeah.
5.
Yeah, last episode.
They just never came around again, it seems like.
Yeah.
Probably fired all of them because
He was like, they sent them. Like, he was like, I did not ask for this.
Okay.
He was like, I think the old people are having us spied on.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Fair.